Hey there. Good to see you. It's Friday morning. What's happening, Scott?
How you doing, everybody?
Yeah, the it has been like right here where I am. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but I'm talking to people around me that felt like getting to the end of this week was like crawling to the end of the week.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
feeling it?
yeah. Well, I think the whole world is feeling it. You know,
Holy crap. Like it's acceleration, isn't it?
yeah. It's also tragedy, man-made tragedy, right? It's difficult, and just when we were starting to get some clarity coming out of COVID, now here we go getting cloudy again. Different reason. So it's
Yeah,
hard. It's hard on everybody.
that's really hard, right?
Yeah,
Like that's a hard reality right now
yeah,
because these two feelings they end up feeling a lot like turbulence where everything in me as an entrepreneur says run, right? Like the opportunity around, man, it's like reminds me of this quote. I started my last quarter's business planning with this quote, and it was every morning there's an antelope that wakes up and knows that it has to outrun the fastest lion or it will die. And every day a lion wakes up and knows that it has to outrun the slowest antelope or it will die. But the moral of the story is wake up ready to run.
that's right.
And
That's
that's
right.
what I feel. So in that moment to be like, there's opportunity here. There's good things happening in Alberta where I am. And at the same time, I am a marketer. So I spend time on TikTok. And then this is so messed up where you're like, oh, my TikTok feed, the way the algorithm is receiving me is it's showing me the stuff I like. I like dogs. I like marine fish. And I pay attention to the news. So it's like dogfish war song, dogfish war, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like that is like, how many people are in that reality right now?
Well, I think the reality of it is that as a human being, right? Or as part of an organization, it's mindset, right? Problems are opportunities, right? And this is affecting everybody individually, different ways. It's important to check in with that. But how can we help? That's an opportunity because that's something we can work on together. It's a problem, and I'm not trying to demean it. And boy, it just tears me apart all the way to my soul that mankind is practicing this type of terrorism yet again. But where's the opportunity? How can we help? Right? You take
See,
that
that's
mindset to it.
exactly what we talk about here. And that's why right now, this is Scott Connors, the Chief Change Officer of Crankset Group. And my name is Taylor Hack. I am a marketing strategist from Gravidia. And this is Leadership Line of Sight. Now, we were supposed to have Peter Kinkaide here today. We were supposed to have an incredible financial mind to talk to us about like these missing opportunities. We're all trained. It's almost like when I was in school, they lied to me. They said that if you want to be anything, you got to keep going to school. And it took me a little while to realize that the people that were telling me this, the only thing they ever did was go to school. Like they
Yeah,
went to school and then they stayed there.
yeah, yeah,
And how many people got that account? They got that account when they turned 14 like I did. I
yeah,
was already working and my money was in a jar, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then I went down to the biggest bank in Canada and like so many other people, I ended up getting that card. And obviously that had an influence on me because I ended up working for that bank later. But how many people in that situation are totally blind to the fact that those are not set up for businesses?
That's right. That's exactly right. The thing about going to school is don't ever go to school. Always be learning. Going to school is one thing, but going to school to learn and finding your passion and finding where you're headed in your life, you college is an experience that you make it, right? By that time you're an adult, at least that's how they're going to treat you. If you really lean into your college education and learn, you'll get value from it. Same thing in kindergarten all the way up, right? It's the mindset.
So we're gonna have like so we're wishing Peter well because Peter is under the weather here, and we're wishing him well this morning. I know that it's got to be difficult to not be in a situation where you feel great about going to work right now. It's hard. It's always hard when it runs into these types of situations. So we wish Peter well.
Yeah.
And we're going to see him back here. In fact, like we've already booked him into our next available position because Scott, what did you do to this podcast here?
Well, what do we do, brother? And what did our guests do for us? Right?
Well, yeah, this is the stuff that is continuing to come up. Like we're going to be welcoming Kira Blackwell on April
Wow.
April 1st, right?
Wow.
The director of NASA iTech.
Wow.
We're going next week. We have an amazing author I was talking to, Marguerite. I can't wait to introduce you to her. It's really neat. In fact, we've got some people inquiring here right now that we probably like. I wasn't sure that they would be interested, but interested enough to inquire.
Hmm.
So I'm happy to have been doing this so far with you. And I think that we're going to have an incredible lineup as we go into the spring of some of the most remarkable minds that are going to be talking about business from the start of a small business to the start of a startup. That's the difference between building a rowboat and building a rocket ship.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know what I like that we've done on the show so far together, and it feels really good to me, is when we're backstage after we do these episodes and we're talking to our guests, and they're always saying things and be like, wow, thank you. I learned a lot today. I learned a lot about, and we're going to do some things differently now. How do we get in touch with you guys? And we've had some follow-on relationships that have been, remarkable and incredible. And we've heard some great success story, like Darcy and her husband. What a success story that is. And we'll see.
Okay, I got to stop you there. You're talking about Darcy Campbell and Cliff Campbell.
Yeah.
So regional owners of a buyer's choice home inspections. Yeah, we're excited to see them back too, because they used to be regional owners of Alberta and now they're regional owners of Canada. Isn't that incredible? So like big congratulations to them. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I think one of the things that adds value to the folks that listen in, whether it's the podcast or whether it's live, is that, we're actually, digging deep into these folks' worlds and their businesses, and we're offering insights and line of sight that they normally wouldn't get unless there's a board of director type relationship there, a productive board of director relationship.
And that's what we're trying to showcase, is that people like Anyina and Michelle, these people are leveling up in the way that a lot of people that I talk to level up. And I want to show that as much as we can, because the growth I've experienced in my life has been directly related to the people I spend time with, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many people that are CEOs and of major corporations that are trying to get your attention, Scott. And for me, I hacked it just like everybody else. So I tricked Scott into showing up to this podcast so that he's my unofficial business CEO consultant. And it's been working great.
Well, you say tricked me. I'll give it to you. But also, there was an aligned desire there for me to build my personal brand and share more about the successes that I've had and my companies have had, my clients have, with a larger audience, right? And that's because my vision is to change the world. And if I got to do it one company at a time, then that's what I'll do. And that's my life's passion. So I needed to get that message out, and this gave me the vehicle to do that. And look, for those people that think it's easy to just spin up a podcast and just start, man, this is not easy stuff. And I give you full credit, you and Joel, full credit for the work that you guys do in making this happen, because I'm along for the ride. And occasionally I get told to get back to the back of the bus and sit down. And we've developed a partnership together. I think the three of us, Joel, and to be with you guys in person, it was in and out, which stunk because my schedule was so back to back, and you guys are busy on the real estate side. So, I think we got something here that's valuable. And to me, that's what matters is are we adding value?
And is it fun? Because when it comes down to it, like we got to do this as much as we do this. And this is this is a 3-person team. A lot of people are going to start seeing more about leadership line of sight out there, because in the back, we keep this unicorn who's got a background in psychology and computer science and an interest in marketing. Okay. So when we take a look at how we do things here, we're always looking for amazing talent. Like we've been talking about Joel Hansen for the last little while, because he had come to me a few years ago to work here on Summers. And we've made a couple of short films together, some commercials. We've been partnering up on a whole bunch of creative ideas, even documenting some of our experience here at my real estate team. And it's been incredible, but I've also been watching Joel develop. So as an actor, suddenly working with entities like Rapid Fire Theater and showing his creative ability on TikTok. Like last time I checked, he was about to break a million likes on a single video and like 5.7 million views.
That's awesome.
So most of the people here that will be helping people with cameras actually have that type of interest behind them. And that's what we call Gravidia. In fact, Gravidia is working with several of the podcast members here in helping them raise their visibility so that they raise their value. Because visibility beats ability, right? Like there's people that are not nearly as exceptional at businesses as you are, Scott. And they might be working with clients that should be working with you. And so that's part of what we definitely want to create together is an opportunity for more people to know that when they're making a big change in business, like you're the chief change officer.
Yeah.
So,
what'd you say last week? What'd you say last week? The most visible is the most valuable?
Every time, man.
Every time.
Attention is the highest value currency on the planet.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we take a look forward for you, so right now you're probably measuring everywhere. We've been talking a lot about military. It's so interesting how you talk to people that are like, 22 years old. And last year they were really dedicated to being an expert virologist. And this year their interest is totally international politics.
Yeah.
But man, we're seeing all this like military equipment and some of these stories like the Canadian sniper Wally is now over in the Ukraine. Like this is the longest shot in recorded history for a sniper, and he has went over to help the Ukrainians. And we're also hearing about the first ace fighter pilot. Now this is unconfirmed. They call this the Ghost of Kiev that has 6 confirmed takedowns. And fighter pilots do this thing that I want to talk to you about. I've talked about this before. It's called an OODA loop. In 3-day space, it's really hard, takes a lot of math to be able to find someone else after doing a maneuver. So they do this move that they try to observe, orient, decide, and then act. And whoever's able to do these loops in their mind successfully and faster is going to win, period.
Yep.
So now when we look at this from a big scope, let's observe for a second, because you were talking to me about some of these things in financial markets as indicators right now.
Yeah, well, first of all, to me, militarily, we're engaged. Canada's engaged. United States engaged because it's economic. It's economic warfare. We can't fight NATO. We know, we all get it now. Member of NATO, not a member. Do we agree? That's a different story, right? But this is an economic war, right? And we've got to look at this. You know, if we say to the business leaders out there, I don't care what size or shape or industry, fight. There's some things that have come up in the last week, at least on my radar, like, for instance, these airline leases. We've got a ton of airline lease exposure in Canada and in the United States. There's planes over there, and are they going to make their lease payments? Well, they can't. So right away, what the industry is starting to do, and I'm seeing this on the radar, is they're filing with the insurance companies. Like, loss, sorry. What we can do to fight is those insurance companies could fund those losses right away. Hey, buddy, normal protocol says you got to collect for 8 months. I tell you what, go. Here's your money. Go buy more aircraft and maybe lease them somewhere in Europe. We got you. So we got to fight that next level. Another layer is the diamond markets, which is a currency. And just because you crush a financial payment system, diamonds are still a currency. So are Russian diamonds still on the marketplace? If they are, don't buy them. And when they lower their price and you're like, well, I got to buy at that price, don't buy them.
Yeah,
that's how we got to fight.
About when they say blood diamonds, right? Like when they're talking about conflict diamonds, these people are a conflict, and that's what's funding them, right? Because I was reading that the average income in Russia is not the average income. Like it's like $5,000 a year, but they actually only get 2 because the wealthy are so wealthy, those like the oligarchs, that it skews the average income to more than double what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about the economic warfare, that's like really what you're seeing. Like, I think that you're allowed to pirate yachts now.
Yeah.
Like I think legit that the US has said, if you end up taking one of these yachts, like, when's the last time we saw that?
Yeah. Well, nice thing is it's in international waters or it's in waters of another country. And hey, it's somebody's boat. It's Russian. Go ahead. I mean, that's fighting this war, right? And we just got to stay persistent. We got to get this thing out. This has got to go away, right? So the financial markets, I think, are doing a good job of sort of squeezing that as best they can. But when it drops down into those layers of industry where there's hard decisions to be made, that's where the vendors got to support the insurance companies, the marketplaces, the buyers, the sellers. We've got to really support that right now. That's when it starts to really hurt, right? That's when it starts to really take effect. And so, I'm proud of what I'm seeing. I think the world should be proud of itself, with the exception of not being able to, create a no-fly zone and that kind of thing. But boy, what a humanitarian aid response that's coming worldwide to the people of Ukraine and our hearts and souls. And also, talk about leadership, historical leadership. This is a guy in Zelensky who has a sitcom and plays a president, right? And then Netflix, I guess I hear, is bringing it back. But now he's living it. And boy, is he doing a good job.
See, this is the thing that I'm wondering about. So, like, there was a company here, a Canadian company called Lululemon that makes amazing athletic wear. And they opened the barn door for sweatpants at work, right? Like suddenly, they're trendy, they're kind of expensive, and that just let them all in. And so when I see somebody like Zelensky in this heroic element, I kind of feel like they're trying on the shoes to see if Joe Rogan should be president.
Well, I think character goes a long way. I think the man's showing great character. I think Joe Rogan, is a different animal relative to Mr. Zelensky. I don't know. I see the parallels, but I will not make the comparison. I think we just need to be really united right now. Like this is something that does not divide us. This one, we're all in agreement, right? We have got to make this stop. These are innocent women, innocent children. These are buildings that have been around for centuries that are being demolished, for no reason. And that's easy to build collaboration around. Now we just got to execute.
I don't know, so when we talk about terrorism overall, I don't know what's worse, them terrorizing us or us terrorizing ourselves, because propaganda is real. Basically, of everything that you've seen, you can pretty safely estimate that maybe 30% of it has some truth to it. And the other things around it are creating connections in your mind that are supporting narratives that don't even actually exist. Scott, you had posted some news for us that's related to this. I think that this is it. Can we make that a touch bigger? There we go. Unprecedented sanctions. So this is what you're talking about when it comes to the financial repercussions, right?
Right.
And so this is information that's being released by the White House. The Russian stock market is closed. Russian credit rating is now junk. But this is not what you're talking about when it comes down to the additional corporate warfare that's essentially taking place. Probably the first one was Elon, right?
Yeah.
Probably the first one was Elon talking about Starlink. But now I think he's said fight him.
Yeah. He escalated it. Yeah, was that fake news though? That's one that I'd like to see. I'd like to see ground news, or I'd like to see, a reputable news source, at least from my perspective, pick up that story. I did see that. But to your point about Starlink, let me give you an example about getting it down to the organizational level, right? There's the opportunity around it, but he delivered, this that you're showing right now is from Forbes. Elon Musk's Starlink becomes most downloaded app in Ukraine. Attaboy. Well done, guys. But here's the thing. He delivered those satellite uplink, the hardware, in 2 days. So he set the vision and the company executed.
Was that Starlink Prime?
Say that again.
He have a Prime account for Starlink?
Yeah, maybe, right?
Is that a combo between Jeff and Elon?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something, right? But here's the point that I think we're both trying to make, right? Execute. Right? Vision, execution, do it, get it there. And that took its own army, to use the military acronym, right? It doesn't just happen. You're going to get a delivery to Ukraine in 2 days. I don't care if you are Elon Musk. That's half a world away. So I'm just really proud of
a tunnel.
Yeah, maybe he bored a hole, right?
That's what the tunnels were for.
It's a quick dig. It's a quick dig.
It's wild though to think that like you can do this. So when we saw that news about Elon threatening to fight them, like this was something that was public on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So this was between Elon and one of the representatives, I believe, of the Russian government, and it's hilarious because he's actually participating in the effort. And now the governments or the Russians have announced that anybody who participates in the financial well-being of Russia, they didn't say is going to be viewed as an enemy. They said is going to be viewed as a target.
Yeah,
which is pretty terrifying because I don't know if it's the lies they're telling us or the lies we're telling themselves. Like I heard that they took an astronaut hostage.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Here's the thing, though. You know,
up in the space station that requires the ride home from them.
Yep.
And the other two dudes are going to be like,
sorry, dude.
Yeah.
That's to think that politics have now reached the space station, right? You know what's interesting to me. I'm starting to feel this way. Tell me how you feel about this. You know, when you're at those of you that have younger brothers, you walk to go get your younger brother in a playground or your younger sister, and there was a bully picking on your younger sibling. And you walked up, and there's a couple kids around and little things spinning around, and you got people on the slide, people in the swings, and you walk up kind of into that group, and you're the giant amongst, the little ones. And you see this going on, and you just walk right up to that bully and you don't hesitate. You say, don't hit her, hit me. I'm just kind of hoping that Putin says, hey, you know what? Yeah, take a shot at any NATO country. One, oh, please. Just please open that door. Just pretty please open that door. And I think I speak on a large part of our military community here in the United States when I say that, just based on some of the articles and some of the generals, retired generals and whatnot that I've had the honor to know and to follow.
Okay, Elon was talking about something crazy the other day, and I'm just going to bring it up. I think all they'd have to do is let Elon loose. And what I mean by that is if Elon was allowed to essentially try to eliminate one person in order to stop this war, he was talking about what it would like a terrifying idea. And the terrifying idea is a drone that can hurt people that works on facial recognition that's available on every phone.
Nice.
So imagine that now there could literally be drones that can see way farther than humans, and based on facial recognition, they could come and basically swoop in kamikaze style end the situation. Like this is something that is another level of another level. Like we could literally have a corporation that's waging war like we already do. Like that's what mercenaries are. But like this could be something that, if you can do Starlink in 2 days, what else you got?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the point. Don't hit them, hit us. Right. You want to come. But it's a real estate. This thing is just, the more you talk about it, the more insane it just sounds.
Okay. I got to share this crazy story because like the one point in my life, I was living this weird world where I was in the security room at Meta headquarters, right? Back then it was called Facebook. And I was standing in the room with the director of global security at that time, Craig D'Souza, now a board member at Meta, and an incredible guy. I can't say enough good things about him. But we were asked to leave the room because there was going to be a meeting on North Korea. And I remember joking with Craig and saying how, like, man, it's such a weird world where I just left a room where a giant corporation is about to have a meeting about a country. And at the time I was there was probably 6 months before Kim Jong-un essentially came out and said that he was going to change his ways and so on and so forth. I'm not sure how much has changed since then, but it was just a weird situation because at that time, Facebook, like GDP wise, would have been a larger country than North Korea.
That's right.
And he was talking about it because they were worried about crisis in North Korea. And at that moment, if I remember correctly, he said that there's like hundreds of, at that time, Facebook employees that would be in transit at that exact time. And that's why they were making decisions, is because they did make decisions like a country.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you bring up all the things that you bring up, all these bold ideas and these threat assessments. They're all based on vision. You gotta have vision about your organization so that when you do have vision, then you can focus on the long range goals, and the short term frustrations don't take away all the energy. And guys like Musk and, all of them, and there's so many visionaries in leadership, and we've had several of them on this call. I mean, even Richard Castleberry from A&M and the MBA program, visionary, right? We're going to change the way we educate. We're going to educate with companies during the engagement with the student. So the companies are going to lean on us to do their strategic planning with them. Evolutionary. Vision.
Man, there was something that Richard said. He talked about how his full-time MBA program at Texas A&M University was designed to show leaders who they are in every situation. Yep. Like when I think about my failures as a leader, and I've got plenty to choose from, a lot of them were based on not knowing me. And then other ones where I felt like I sold myself out were directly related to the fact that I wasn't as confident in my vision. Yeah. And so I wasn't developing the momentum that would keep me able to resist countervailing forces. I needed momentum, and trusting in your vision allows you to do that. And trusting in like who you are is really required to execute.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is the important thing, is that we talk about vision, you and I, right? But we're not talking about Bezos and Musk's. I'm talking about mid-level managers. I'm talking about people that are doing the hard labor. What's the vision for the job? What should this job look like a year from now to make it palatable, fun, pay well, and make me want to keep coming back? We've all got to look at things from a visionary perspective, because we've been going through, arguably the biggest technological advance in the last 2 decades than light years. I mean, you just look at the scale and it's all technology. Change is happening so fast that the only way to get in front of it is vision. So we've got to think in terms of, I'm a real estate agent. I'm thinking, what does my job need to look like a year from now? I'm not going to wait for Taylor to tell me that. I'm not going to wait for the industry to go in that direction. I need to start thinking about that vision. What does my actual boots on the ground job look like? That's vision. And everybody should have that mindset. The other thing is, it's a lot easier to get up in the morning because you're not caught up in the day-to-day in here,
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So one, I wanted to make a book recommendation for Hero on a Mission. This book is really good. I really enjoyed it when I read it, because when we're talking about getting a vision, how do you even start? And what this book did is it showed me how to talk to others about what I see for vision. Mm-hmm. And what Donald Miller, the author of this book and New York Times best-selling author of Story Brand, just amazing guy. And what he talks about is live your eulogy. So like write the eulogy that you want as your beacon. That's your North Star. That's where to start and where to look, right? Yeah. And then you build towards that. So these are the things that I really enjoy in vision, because I didn't know what people meant when they said like manifest it,
Right. Well, while we're talking about books, Michael Hyatt has a new book out, and Michael's the ex-CEO of a couple of big publishing companies. It's called The Vision-Driven Leader, and he speaks to that very concept, right, of the importance of vision. And not just, living the eulogy piece, as much as understanding that you're writing it every day and that you should be focused on it every day. And that when you get away from it or you don't have it, bad things happen, right? The Vision-Driven Leader, Michael Hyatt, a good book. And then he's got the 10, and he starts, right? The prologue of the book is his failure and how him and his partner in that business failed. What a great place to start, right? That's where every leader, every entrepreneur, every one of us has our failures. And if we look at them as failures instead of new beginnings, that's mindset. That's lack of vision.
Man, on the outside, it always looks like these people happen overnight, right? Like suddenly they're wildly successful. But then when you ask them to tell the story of how they became successful, it's a way longer story than you think. It starts years and years ago. And if they wouldn't have done the things to develop themselves, they wouldn't have been able to do this achievement. Because the way I see it is that success is an intersection. It's an intersection between opportunity and preparation. And so when the opportunity arrives, are you prepared?
Right.
Because if you're not prepared, the likelihood you will even recognize the opportunity. Like, how many people think that the opportunity just actually like happens to them in a way that it's a ride? Like, you get discovered might be a way that they see it, right?
Right. Right.
Man, I wouldn't want to wait for that.
Yeah, and look at it like, I mean, let's break it down to like, I don't know, give me a, let's talk about this podcast, this event, you and me. If our vision is shared, make this really successful and define success as a lot of people listen in, a lot of people start to know who Gravidia is, a lot of people not start to know who Taylor is, know who Scott is, and help our guests and have fun doing it. Like, if that's that shared vision, then along the way, as things come up that might be problematic, it's easy to have the conversations because we're sharing the same vision.
And I want to play on that. So if we were to write the eulogy of this show, we would say that what this show did is it helped a billion people. Okay. So then we could say, all right, now we have the start of what could look like a vision or a goal because we have some numbers. We don't have a timeline yet, right? Which would be what it needs to turn into a goal. But we might have something to say, okay, well, frig, a billion people is a lot, right? 330 million in the US. You know, I've only got like another 30 to 40 million here. We got to go, where are we going to go with this, right?
Right.
Well, we have to go beyond that because we have to be sharing stories that will travel among those people.
Right.
And so that's why so many people would have to know about this, because if you have these big goals, it doesn't matter if you can see from here to there. You know, think about every time you've traveled in a car. Could you see your destination? No, you had to make like good decisions within the headlight range that you have. And what we're asking is maybe to get a really good understanding of where you're going so that you can use your mobile navigation and then use the high beams.
Well,
Right?
but to finish that point, if you're just driving and you don't know where you're going, what's the point?
And what happens if you're heading in the wrong direction to where you suddenly, like where you eventually reveal you were always going?
Well, you got to look at it this way. If you've got no destination, aka vision, you're just driving around in circles. Maybe they're big circles, maybe they're little circles, but they're still circles. So we really got to be thinking the way to embrace COVID and the way to embrace what's happening in Ukraine and the tragedy there. The way to embrace all of this is with vision mindset. What is the vision? What is my next step? What does my vision look like? If I start thinking visionary, then along the way, I really want to help Ukraine. Help Ukraine. Well, but I work at a shoe factory. Well, then talk to your coworkers. How can we help Ukraine? Which gets up to senior management, which says, hey, our people really want to help Ukraine. To where our president says, well, let's ship them 1,000 pairs of shoes. Well, but we make kids' shoes. They got kids. Ship the shoes. And then it goes to logistics. So as a visionary company, we gave a culture into, what are your ideas? What matters to you? Come tell us and let's execute on them together. And again, at the corporate level, this one's a no-brainer. Everybody wants to help. It's no debate. You're not right. You're not left. You're for Ukraine.
Yeah, and honestly, if you don't have a vision, there's not as much for other people to grab onto. Like, as a leader, my vision is super important because that's how other people identify that I'm a leader. Like, you don't want to get in the car with somebody who doesn't know where they're going, right? You're not going to end up in the right spot. And so not only being able to cast a vision, but articulate that vision to other people, that's where leadership begins, in my opinion. I've definitely had more people do things I would never expect, to create things we would have never achieved, if I wasn't able to say like, hey, listen, my thing is I can see where this can go. Right? Now I also see your things and I can't do this without you. Right. That's the message.
Yeah. And I think this is really important. The best ideas that have ever come have begun in a visionary statement from you. And then the rest is backfilled by your great people. Just great ideas, right? It's amazing what happens to companies when you get out of the way. When you just ask the right questions and you set the vision and you get out of the way. When you don't work on the daily tasks, you don't work on the weekly initiatives, you don't work on the quarterlies, you don't work on the annuals, you work out there, right? Jeff Bezos said it best. He said, I have no idea what Amazon is doing today, but ask me what we're going to look like 2 years from now. I can tell you exactly what we're going to look like. That's vision.
I don't know if you know that it's opening weekend for Formula One, but this is something that I know and I'm excited about. And one of the people that's on my vision board is actually from the opponent's team. I happen to be a Red Bull Racing fan. And the team that is the most threatening to them is Mercedes. And the team principal of Mercedes is a guy named Toto Wolff, who's an incredible entrepreneur. And he has this quote, and he talks about not knowing how to make an aerodynamic surface, but knowing everything about the guy who knows that.
Yeah.
And that's really that's the difference is that you like leadership is part like knowing the people so that you can help them achieve goals that are important to them and also help them like break through those limiting beliefs.
Right. Yeah. It's and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of success every time.
Man, I used to think that when I was coaching with my teammates that I was supposed to be there specifically sharpening skill every moment until I realized that like just like so many other things, I have two ears and one mouth and should use them accordingly. And the more I got to know about people, the more effective we were together. And the less that I was trying to teach them and the more that I was trying to learn how they learned, that was like a big unlock for me.
Yeah. You know, the old proverb, there's two guys that go and cut down trees every day. They both start at sunrise. They both stop at sunset. The only difference between them is that every day for an hour, lumberjack number B goes home and has lunch. And at the end of every day, they count the logs and the productivity. And the guy that goes home for lunch always has better productivity every time. And so one day, lumberjack A turns to lumberjack B. He says, you know, we work for the same time and you take an hour break. How is it that you're outproducing me and chopping down more trees every day? And lumberjack A is happy to share. He just looks at him and says, oh, that's easy. When I go home, I sharpen my axe. That's vision. That's what it's all about.
See, that for me in my business, sharpening the axe was having a coaching schedule. So what I noticed in many other businesses is that they had the productivity schedule where they would do the things that made them a business, but they didn't actually have the part where they would develop the people to do it better tomorrow or sharpen the axe, right?
Right.
That's something that I think is prevalent. People hire people for jobs and then don't develop them because it would cause pain points in them outgrowing the job.
Oh, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. And it's globally worse than that. And here's why. Because what happens is you get busier. Interesting word. Doing your daily tasks. So what do? You add more resources that you have to train and onboard. And then you lose other resources. So you bring in other resources. What are you doing there? Well, you're just doing more of the same work. The volume might increase, but the productivity is flat. You need to think about that. And so you say, well, we don't have time to look at our processes. You can't afford not to. So your problem a lot of times, way more than you guys, listeners might think, at companies of every size. Adding resources, recruiting more, hiring more is not the first answer. It's the last line of defense. Look at your processes. Well, we don't have time. Okay, then hire your next round of resources and then stop and look at your processes. I had a gentleman who runs a very, very successful automobile dealership kind of repair where you got a problem with a vehicle like a recall or something, and it's down in Georgia. And it was very interesting what he said to me. He said, I'm done hiring, period. We've got to learn to do it better. And every one of his mechanics looked at him and said, I'm not looking at my delivery logistics. Yeah, you are. Because we're not hiring, you all just got a 10% raise. And what you're going to deliver is how we can do it better. And then he just put them all together. And they had a month and they met twice a week. And how do you think they're running now?
Oh,
And
I know exactly what you're talking about because I implemented the entrepreneurial operating system from a book called Traction a couple of years ago, and I'm learning a lot of myself as a leader. And I can see that when I make transparency in what we are all doing, it really changes how we're able to work as a team,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
Because otherwise, it's not like people don't know what other people are doing. They actually just have misconceptions about what other people are doing.
Yeah. And you know what? We talk about this when we're 30 minutes in today. We talk about this, right? And I, I'll bet 9 plus out of 10 of the listeners and whoever listens to it down the road are thinking, I have no idea how to do what these guys are talking about. I have no idea. Right. And they keep that private because there's always a little ego in there. Right. Okay. That's what coaches are for. That's what advisors are for. You know, when LeBron James scores 40 and you look at LeBron James and the 40 he just put up, or a McDavid and his hat tricks, they got 7, 8 coaches. They got nutritionists. They got, fitness and weights. And well, you get it. There's a whole coaching staff behind these great people. You know who else has coaches? Coaches. So it's okay to get somebody who knows how to do this stuff and invite them in, at least have those conversations. So a lot of times what they don't understand, what leaders understand is it's obvious you have no idea how to do this stuff because that's normal. But you've got to learn it. And where do you learn it? Third party.
Especially when it comes to high performers, right? Like if you take a look at some of the people that run the leading corporations of the world, I think that most people that don't understand have this misconception that a coach has to have done what you're about to do.
Right.
That's not even the same job. Like I remember one of the historic best hockey players ever was Wayne Gretzky. What a shit coach, right? Like went down to Phoenix and just couldn't make it happen. And that's sometimes what it's like. So for me, mentorship was a big deal because I felt as though as a child, I was underinvested in. I was difficult. I had opinions. I didn't trust adults because they lied to themselves and I could see it. And that's a real like out of the matrix idea for a 7 or an 8-year-old. And so the way that they treated me was different because I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. And it ended up in this weird situation where suddenly I found mentors as an adult. And I felt like I needed to earn them all. So I remember learning how to show like these computer tricks to a guy in an appliance shop when I was in his warehouse. And that's why he gave me a promotion to allow me a little bit further. And then I found this meritocracy when I could sell things. And the first guy who kind of taught me how to fish instead of giving me a fish, I worked for him. And that was our exchange as him as my mentor. And then I went from, this guy's name was Bob DeHaan, really important guy to me. And I went to another guy named Lincoln Manzovich. And he was somebody who really showed me how to take the ability to influence people to another level, right? He could change the atmosphere in a room. And again, I worked for him. That was the value exchange. But suddenly I was an entrepreneur and there wasn't anybody to work for but me. Does that mean I'm the coach and the player?
Right.
No. It meant that I needed to go and pay my mentors. So what I did in real estate is I was in 11 months in. The average agent sells 6 houses a year. Opening year, at 6 months in, I had sold 24. And I was on my way to doing almost 40. And in the 11th month of that year, I got a coach. And people are like, what are you doing? Coaches are babysitters, right? And in my mind, I was like, oh, if you see them as a babysitter, that only means that your perspective is that you were a child, right? So if you see them as a babysitter, that's because you just haven't developed in that part yet. Because for me, my coaches felt like I was holding them accountable. I would send them an email before our coaching telling them about how things were going for me because those minutes were my minutes on that call, right? I wasn't wasting any time in like a therapy session. And so I would game the system. And so what happened when I did that? Well, at 11 months in, I got a coach. And my like, we talk about wanting to go up and to the right as far as the charts go. Well, like then it was really like top 2% in the world in 32 months.
It's awesome.
And I have to say that I would have never been able to run that fast if I didn't have an eye in the sky. And that's what I see that you do for your clients, Scott, is that the perspective that they have is in the woods. And the perspective that you have is above the forest.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got a valid point. And, it was Confucius, I think, that said the journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with a single step. So that's that first step for someone to open up the actual, mind space, a mindset of, okay, maybe I'll talk to somebody. Like maybe I'll look into it. That's that kind of that first step. I always say before you do that, find a leader in your life, and you've given us 3 or 4 great examples. So find a leader in your life that resonates with you. And, it's funny, you ask leaders when CEOs and C-levels and who's a leader that resonates with you? And, they got to think, they got to stop and think, because they haven't had that mentorship. They haven't had that leadership as nearly as much as they should. And it's not a question that gets asked a lot. But one of the people that for me is a mentor, I'd never met the man, was Abraham Lincoln. Oh, that's vision. Very unpopular fellow, right? That's a big deal. But his leadership style,
right?
Right.
Like that shows a little bit about his popularity.
Exactly. And so the point I make is that, okay, I want to emulate Lincoln. Just copy him. Just read about him, copy him. Or just, what do you like about his style? And what did you like about this person who you resonate with? A lot of times it's my father, it's I love it, it's my mother, I love that. And what did you like about your father and mother? What did you like about your first boss? What did you like about your high school volleyball coach? Who was that influence in your life? Go back to that person's character traits. And that's what you lack in yourself a lot of times, that you aspire to be like. Work on those skills a little bit, and we'll talk in a month. It's always fun to come back a month later, right? So, how you doing? Listen, this has been great. I haven't done anything yet. This has been really helpful. Let me tell you, this is great. Well, tell me why it's helpful. And now you start to get into this conversational piece. And that's really what coaches do, is they come alongside you. And the best advisors, the best mentors, the best coaches, they coach you where you are, not where you should be. And as soon as you get into that should be versus are, you're not a professional advisor. You shouldn't be paid for that kind of stuff. Right? That's when you drop out of scope and into the weeds. And then, that's hard. And I've made that mistake. I'm not going to lie. With companies that are really near and dear to my heart, sometimes we get too involved and we do lose that objectivity, that coachability. Right. And so,
because it's really hard as a coach not to just jump in.
Right.
Like, because the role of a coach is very different. In fact, you're supposed to, I don't know, how would you describe it from your side? So when you're approaching somebody, if you were to basically say, okay, if this relationship had a eulogy, right?
Yeah.
Where would you be aiming?
Yeah, exactly. I think, and it's a good question. I think I want to tell you about a conversation I had with a lady, Erin Ekman, who I admire a great deal, Leadership Group out of Calgary. She said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm always good." She said, "Uh-huh." And we just having a little quick, we were talking about another client we're working on together. She goes, "Uh-huh." Got me. She said, "What's up?" I said, I just feel like at the end of every day, like I'm on this edge of Armageddon where the wheels are just going to fall off every one of them. Like it's just all going to come flying off. Right. And she smiled, I was like, "Ooh, she's smiling with that?" I don't know how to take that. You know what she said to me? She said, when I was a professor who really meant a lot to me when I was getting certified in coaching, said to me, if you don't feel like you're going to get fired by every single one of your clients at the end of every day, you're not doing a good job. And if you do feel that way, you are doing a good job, because you're a catalyst and you're uncomfortable and you're about change. And if you're running 7, 8, 9 companies, big, right? And that's how you feel 7 times, times 7 every day. Good job. That's tough to get around. So coaching's not what people think it is. And it carries a lot bigger burden than most might think. And I think all good mentors and all good leaders and all good advisors and all good coaches have one thing in common. We truly care about our clients' success. Truly care. Secondarily to our own.
I think that's great. That's a great way to put it. My perspective from somebody who is professionally coached is that it's it's almost like if it's working really well, you're dedicated to your vision, but your coach is almost like a mental optometrist where they like keep putting different lenses on and say, okay, from this perspective, is it clear or unclear? Okay, from this perspective. So like growth, cash flow, all of these things, like, and you're like, okay, is that a C or a D? This is why you need to do that, is because there's going to be several aspects where you lack clarity. Right. And if you're just doing it, you're going to start navigating by feel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. The co-founder, one of the co-founders of HJ Group, Quentin Gardner, said to me, if you hire a coach who tells you what you want to hear, you've hired a paid friend. Right?
Yep, I totally agree with that. And you know how many people really just pay a coach to have somebody to listen to them?
I do.
And the reason that they say that coaching is irritating is because it's change resistance.
That's right.
Right? Like our coach says things to our team all the time that I don't like. Right? I made systems and processes that she challenges. And when she does, immediately irritated. Right? And like a lot of the time, I'm like, you don't understand. But because we have the right coaching relationship, I listen to her anyway. And I roll it around in my mind, and then I have to go check. And I go to one of my other team members, and I'm like, hey, if we change this or this, would it break? And then I go to this other team member, and I'm like, hey, if we were scoring like 7s here and we made these 2 changes, would we get 9s? And then I go to this other team member, and I get their perspective on why they supported the coach when she said that. And suddenly I realize that when I was putting on all my other lenses, this was aging and degrading. And it no longer serves us in the way it did when we designed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the big part for me there, Taylor, I think the part that everyone needs to really hear is that you're learning how to have and how to receive and eventually how to give constructive feedback. When you try to engage another human being in the workplace with something that's constructive, but feels demeaning or is delivered in a degrading manner. So it's very important tone and separations in the preparation. And this is to help me do a better job in helping you in your career. I need your help here. These are the things that I'm seeing. These are the things that I'm challenging. Help me understand if we're on the right track. Am I seeing that right? You had agreed to work Saturdays and Sundays and do open houses. We're 6 months in and you've done one. Now I'm seeing something different from what we had agreed to. Help me understand that. Instead of you showed up for one open house in 6 months. That's not going to work. Where does that get us? How is that received? Right? It's all in the presentation. The separation is in the preparation. And presentation is where you pick up your trophy.
And I think we would have better conversations that were more comfortable if we had them more frequently.
Right.
So some of these times it's like a year in trouble and it's been smoking it on fire and somebody's like, yeah, this is broken, and everybody knows it's broken. So like, why, in the same situation, somebody is not doing what they said that they were going to do.
Right.
So the more transparency that you have inside your business, the more that person is going to have social proof that other people are getting different outcomes that they are.
Exactly.
Then they're going to have to question. And a lot of times, if it's not working, they might question me and say, like, how are you helping those other people beat me?
Right. Right.
And
right.
then
and that's the great game.
That well.
Right.
So
that's the great game. Right. That's the great game.
Yeah. But like, I was like, hey, what did you see? What did you think? And then what did you feel?
Right.
That's so leadership. When you see that other teammates are outperforming you, what do you think about that? You think that I'm able to juke this, right? I get it. So let's unpack that a little bit. Why don't we ask those teammates where their business comes from? And we can do this open in a meeting because they would like you to do well too.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. That's right. It's funny.
To come into these things, because if you manage somebody in the moment, that's micromanagement, right?
That's right.
And if you manage them in the past, you're normally like pointing fingers at fault.
That's right.
But coaching is managing their future. To say like, oh, you haven't been doing open houses until now. How do you think about that? How do you feel about that? And now to get to this goal, do you think you can do it without open houses?
Right. Exactly right. It's funny. Here we go again. It's been another show. We wrap up yet again, right? We do this. We get going, and next thing you know, I look up at the clock. I'm like, "Holy crickets! We're almost 50 minutes in." And I think that's the takeaway for me today, right? Is that the more we communicate, the more we understand that asking for help or not knowing is the start to getting to know. And the more we just engage on those things that are collaborative and easy to collaborate with, like Ukraine and rally around, I think the world's a better place. I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. The lesson that I'm taking away from today is just that you should continue to try on lenses. You should continue to try on things that make yourself less comfortable. I was just listening to a U.S. Army Ranger who was talking to people about where he gets his news. Any thoughts on where he gets his news?
Everywhere. The more the merrier.
That's exactly it. He says you need to know what they're all thinking in order to make your own decision.
That's right.
And that's what an informed decision is, where so many people make a decision that they feel, and then they seek other information only if it supports that.
That's right.
And it's just an order of operation thing that needs to change.
That's right.
Well, I'm excited for what's to come. In this next month, we're going to be bringing some of the some incredibly impactful guests. We're going to be able to make some announcements. I think that this is I think that we are leveling up.
I agree.
So thank you everyone for joining us today and joining us on this little tour. I think that the things that we're expecting coming forward here are exciting. I am wishing Peter the best. I know that going through any illness is uncomfortable, and we're excited to have you back. And I'm also excited to hear from some of our past guests already, just watching what we've been doing, and they're also interested in coming back. So right now our frequency is weekly, and that's working for us, but man, a little bit under pressure. So
it's all right. That's all right. We'll get to all of them.
So thank you very much. I'm here with Scott Connors. Scott is the Chief Change Officer of Crankset Group. Crankset Group is the group that we're talking about when we say that if you feel as though your business needs big changes, why do those have to come within you? Right? You need more backup. You need somebody on the inside that can help you try on these lenses. And Scott Connors does that in magnificent ways. And my name is Taylor, and I'm the Marketing Strategist at Gravidia. What you're seeing as part of this podcast is a little bit of lightning in a bottle. We are going to help those people that should be more visible become more visible because they're so valuable. People just need to see it. And we're going to continue in that with this podcast. We are excited to make that announcement and to show you what's next. Have a great week, Scott. Thanks again for joining me.
Bye for now, everyone.